Nowadays, many people consider Pep Guardiola to be Manchester City's greatest ever manager, but I would beg to differ. I think there is a manager out there in Manchester City's past who was greater and more excellent, who led Manchester City from trouble into greatness, who led Manchester City from obscurity to be English champions, to win the FA Cup, to complete English football, and to lift their first ever European trophy. This is the tale of Joe Mercer at Manchester City. In 1965, Joe Mercer took over Manchester City. Manchester City had been struggling in the second division for 2 years now, and still they couldn't get out. But Joe Mercer came in with his assistant, Malcolm Allison, and secured immediate promotion. And this showed Joe Mercer's nature for Manchester City. He was immediate, he was profound, and he was efficient. Winning not only promotion, but 3 years later he would guide the team to winning the English League title. The style of football was very attacking and forward moving, something that Manchester City fans had not seen in a while. It was exciting, it was thrilling, and Joe Mercer guided young players to become superstars, the likes of Francis Lee, Colin Bell, who had maybe not been under the best guidance before, were now shining through at Manchester City. The triumph for Manchester City at the time was akin to Leicester City's triumph in the Premier League, winning the league title with only 2 points in their second season in the top division, beating out Manchester United, City rival, to the title on the final day of the season. This success earned Manchester City a ticket to the European Cup as well, their first time ever playing in this competition. Although Manchester City's success in the European Cup wasn't of the greatest either. Only in the first round would they lose to Fenerbahce on a 1-2 aggregate score. But that did not mean that Manchester City could not be successful elsewhere. Despite only finishing 13th in the league with Joe Mercer this season, that is actually not all too abnormal for English football back in the day. Manchester United, who finished second the season before, finished 11th this season. And other teams that would be usually up on top often found themselves in mid-table. The really more interesting thing is Manchester City's qualification to the European Cup Winners' Cup when they won the FA Cup in a dramatic final. Manchester City faced Leicester City in the FA Cup final at Wembley with an attendance of approximately 100,000 spectators. The only goal of the match came in the 24th minute when Neil Young capitalised on a pass from Mike Summerby. Young's left-footed shot from outside the penalty area beat Leicester's goalkeeper, Peter Shilton. Both teams would have multiple opportunities, but Manchester City's defence, led by captain Tony Book, managed to keep Leicester City at bay. At the end of the final, Manchester City won the game 1-0. And this was a significant trophy for Manchester City. Until now, Manchester City had never won trophies in back-to-back years before. Now, that was different. And this FA Cup victory led Manchester City to the European Cup Winners' Cup. Manchester City finished 10th in the 1969-70 season in the league. However, they won the League Cup by beating West Ham 2-1. An early goal from Jeff Ashley put West Ham up. At the 87th minute, Mike Doyle managed to equalise for Manchester City, and in extra time in the 102nd minute, Kylian Pardo scored the 2-1, seeing Manchester through and winning them the League Cup. That was only their first trophy of the season, however, as Manchester City also went on to win their first ever European trophy. On April 29, 1970, at the Praterstadion in Vienna, Austria, Manchester City played Górnik Zabrze from Poland. In the game, Manchester City scored an early goal in the 12th minute with Neil Young. Francis Lee doubled the lead for Manchester City with a goal in the 43rd minute. Górnik Zabrze pulled one back with a goal from Stanislaw Osilozo in the 68th minute, but they could not equalise. And so Manchester City went on to win the game, becoming, for the first time, champions in Europe. Joe Mercer left Manchester City in 1971 in an unsuccessful year. finishing 11th in the league. His leaving Manchester City was the end of an era. Never before had Manchester City won back-to-back trophies, or 2 trophies in the same year. Now, they had won trophies 3 years in a row, which included a cup double. Though Manchester City did not immediately fade into obscurity either. They went on to still win a League Cup a few years later and finished 4th the season after Joe Mercer left. But they would never reclaim the same heights that they did under Joe Mercer. At least, not for a long while. Until the 2000s, when a rich businessman saw a club with a rich history in the late 60s and early 70s of winning trophies and thought to bring glory back to this Manchester club clad in blue. All thanks to Joe Mercer's exploits.